two parts. Jack's back here with you, High Noon Leatherworks, for another leather adventure. And this time we are going to complete the series on these homemade chaps. And I finished up the second one after the last video. You can see that I have all my spots on, my bleed knot with my conchos. They turned out awesome. I'm real happy with them. So now, today, what I've got to do is we're going to put some grommets in here so that we can have some ties in the back. I didn't want to go all out and try to do buckles and straps, and I'm just going to do some ties. So we're going to use some grommets, try that, see how that works. I think it's going to work out just fine. And we're also going to put it on a belt. So I've got a belt here that I made a while back. It's a nice basket weave belt. Give it a little more contrast, but I think it's going to look good. It's a little darker brown, which will go with the darker brown in the hair, on cowhide. And then I've got some lace that we're going to use in those grommets as our ties. So I'm going to mount these chaps on this belt using Chicago screws. So we'll see how that works out. That way, if I want to move them or take them off or for some reason, I can do that. So come on in and let's get started. Alright, I'm going to do the belt last so that I don't have to deal with these together as I put the grommets in. So I'm going to set one of those aside, take one of these, set it on my leg, hold it up to my leg, and let's see my waist, and let's just see where I want these ties. I think I want one up by my thigh and then one down around my calf. So it's a couple of inches down from the lower crotch area here, and then it's going to be looks like about a foot from the bottom. So let's take a look at that, and I'm going to set my little grommets off to the side there so I don't. So I'm going to go down a couple of inches here, and I'm going to use the punch I'm using is 1/8 inch. And I'm going to come in about a 1/2 inch and come down 2 inches. So I'm going to do one on this side, then I'll measure up from the bottom and do another one the exact same position on this side. So let's try this one. And I'm just going to punch my hole in. Let's get a grommet and my setter. And I'm going to use a piece of leather as a backer. Now, with that 1/8 inch punch, the grommets that I'm using do fit snug, but I want them to fit snug. You don't want them loose, or they have a tendency, if you don't get them rounded over good on this side, they would have a tendency to push out. So I'm going to take another larger punch that'll go over my grommet and push it down, push the leather down around that. Then I'll take my setter and notice I'm rotating my setting tool as I'm tapping. That way I'm trying to get as much even pressure on that grommet as I can, so I don't push the grommet over to one side or the other. So as you can see, got a nice grommet, and then it bit in real nice on the back side. Again, you could sew straps or whatever you'd like to do there. That's up to you. I'm gonna have to get my tape out of my sewing kit here, and then I'll measure from the bottom up, because I can't measure from the top because it doesn't go all the way over. And from the bottom up is 23 inches. So I'll go to the other side, measure bottom up, and mark that at 23 inches. And I'm going to make this go all the way through my fringe also. That'll help lock that in. So I made a little mark there so I can see it. Punch my hole. Grab my grommet. Again, I may have to work on that, especially to get that through that second layer, that fringe layer. I've got that larger punch that seems to do a really good job. I just work on that till I get it all the way through so that I can roll it over, bend it over. That looks great. Now I can go ahead and use my setter. And again, I'm rolling that as I'm setting that, so it gives me a nice pinch on that back right there. Alright, so there's the first set. Then, and they're directly across from one another, then I'm going to do the ones that would go around my calf, and I said those were going to be approximately 12 inches. So I don't want it around my knee. So I think I'll go 11 inches. Let's try it at 11. And I'll make a little divot there with my setter. Find my smaller punch here. It's hiding behind my cutting mat. Punch my hole. Now I'm going to go ahead and repeat pushing the rivet through, which it pushed through just fine, no problem. It's a lot easier to work with if it's only that single thickness of leather. Now I can do my And it works so well if you just take your time and tap that down as you're rotating. It seems to give you a really nice finish on the back of that grommet. So then I'll go up to the other side, 11 inches. I'll double check. It's exactly 11. And again, I'm going to catch both thicknesses of leather. I want to catch the fringe too, just like I did at the top. There's my hole. Push my grommet through. Make sure that it's all the way down in there. Then I can go ahead and take my setter. Make sure my leather, backing leather's back there. And set my rivet. Turned out really nice. Like the more you practice, the more you do, the nicer they turn out. It's about like anything. So here's my idea behind the lace, is that we take put a little chisel point on it on both ends, and this should fit fairly tight through these grommets. And then what I want to do is pull that through that grommet far enough that I can just put a quick little loop knot there. And that chisel point will help decorate that knot, and it also helps me get it through the rivet. Then I can just pull that through tight to the rivet, so it actually kind of hides the rivet itself. Now we're going to do the other side the same way. See if I can get this side started. Now remember, I'm going through two thicknesses on this side, so I may need, a chisel point may need to be a little bit longer. To get it started. It does need to be a little longer, so I'll have to trim just a hair more off of that. And that's just that thickness of that fringe is making that difference. So there's the tip. Let me see if I can grab my small pair of needle nose. And I like using these curved needle nose. They seem to work really well. If you can get a good bite on it. I'm just using this on the back of the grommet so I don't pull the grommet out. And there it goes. That one fit really snug. I think I'll pull that out just a hair more and make it easier. I've got plenty here. Make it a lot easier for me to tie that knot there. So I'll flip that over. Again, I'm just going to tie that loop knot. Leave that chisel point hanging out there. Then I can pull that back tight against the chaps. So there's my two knots. And then on the back, as it comes through, all I have to do is cut this in half, and then I can tie that around my leg. And I'll have two of those for each chap. So I'm going to go ahead and complete these, and I'll do the other one also, and then I'll be right back. I've finished all of the grommets and put in all the lace for the ties, so they're in the back. So now I can go ahead and just pull that up, make it even on both sides, and cut that in half. So that gives me plenty of lace to tie those. So there's that one cut. Let's do the second one. And these are just some heavy duty meat shears that I have here that I use to cut that with. So there's what they end up looking like, and they'll tie back here in the back. And I've got one on the top and one at the bottom. Now, I do not have a knot on the back, but I don't think I'll need one because those pieces of lace pulled through those grommets really tight, so I don't think they're going anywhere. Plus, that did end up giving it a little bit of decoration on the front and adding to that with those little knots on there. So the next thing is I need to figure out where I want to put my Chicago screws, and I'm going to put two. I'm going to start by putting two each. Two screws on each piece, and let's see how that works. So I need to put them probably spaced out, maybe an inch to an inch and a quarter in. So I'm going to try an inch and a quarter, and let's see how that works. Now, my holes in my belt, I'm going to put approximately half the height of the belt. So I'm going to come down on these about 3/4 of an inch. So I'm going to go 1 1/4 in on each side, approximately 3/4 of an inch down. And then I'll mark those. So I'll go ahead and grab my other chap, mark it. I'm trying not to get them for it to be too cumbersome here, too much around. So mark it at 1 1/4 and 1 1/4. Now I need to double check, make sure on my largest end of my Chicago screw which one of my punches, that one fits perfect. Lets it go right in, and it's a 3/16. So we'll use a 3/16 punch. And we're punching through that hair-on cowhide and the leather for the chaps. There's one. Let's go to the other chap and do it now too. And then what I want to do is I want to get my belt up here, and I marked where I'd like to see these fall on this belt. So all I did was stand up and put my belt on and then hold these up to get an idea where I want those. So I've got a really good idea where I want these chaps to fall. So what I did was I made a mark on the belt just with a black Sharpie where I know I want these to land. So I want the chaps to go all the way to the top of the belt. So that's going to put most of that weight and it happens to hit the very last hole in the belt, right where I put my hole in the. So let's go ahead and stick that Chicago screw through, and let's put the threaded end in toward the back so you don't see the slot of the screwdriver. I tell you what, I absolutely love these like 9-in-1, 6-in-1 screwdrivers. They are absolutely wonderful to have around. Easy to change. Alright, so I'm going to snug that down. And you can put some blue Loctite on that where it'll keep it from coming out, but it will come out if you need to get it out of there. Alright, so I am going to mark this hole with a Sharpie through the hole that I punched. take my 3/16. If I can see my Sharpie mark. That's hard to see. Let me do that again. I'll tell you what, let me just put an indentation in the belt with my stylus. That would be easier to see. Yeah, now I see the Sharpie mark. That dark brown dye. So I'll go ahead, punch a 3/16 inch hole in that belt. Put another Chicago stud through the front. Another threaded part in the back. And tighten that up with the screwdriver. Now again, that makes it really easy to take this apart and use it for just a belt or a gun belt, or if you wanted to move these chaps for any reason. Makes it real easy to do that. So there's one on, and then I need to move down to the next one and grab the other chap and go ahead and mark it. And once I mark it, I can go ahead and punch it. I don't see that mark. This dark brown is hard to see the marks on there. There we go. Got a little bit better penetration on that one. Let me grab my 3/16 punch. We'll go ahead and pop these holes in this belt. Finish these Chicago screws up. Again, I'm putting a smooth, rounded part on the outside and the slot on the inside, just to make it look more finished. And basically what it ends up looking like is a nice rivet. And it looks like I've got two of the same type there. I need some threads. There we go. Take the second one. And again, it's going to be personal preference whether you want 3 across here or 4 or 2. I'm just going to have to play it by ear and see what it looks like, since I've never done this before. Alright, so there's my chaps attached to my belt. So let's try these on and see what they look like. Alright, so let's go ahead and put them on, see what they look like. And then I'll tie them
Probably be a lot easier if I sat down, obviously.
So they turned out
Real nice. Definitely
gonna work as a set of working man chaps.
nice, soft leather, but
Definitely gonna protect your legs from brush or whatever. Definitely would fit a lot better if I had a pair of cowboy boots on. But as you can see, the fringe turned out really good. The front turned out great. I'm real happy with the belt, the way it worked. And I could resize it a little bit if I needed to. But the conchos and everything turned out great. The hair on cowhide turned out good. I'm real happy with them. I do like the spots. Alright, I appreciate you coming along. And I know this has been a 4-part series, but I appreciate you sticking around and checking it out. It turned out great. I'm glad I took on this project, and I think these things will last a lifetime. So come on back next week and check out a brand new project that I'm starting. And I'll give you a little hint. Again, I've never done it before, but it is a request from one of the viewers. So come on back next week, check it out. I appreciate you coming along. Please, if you haven't, subscribe. Doesn't cost you a thing. Make sure you check out Kentucky Leather and Hides at KentuckyLeatherandHides.com and see what all they have to offer. Good people. And as I always say, please like, share with a friend, and subscribe. And I'll see you next time.